Make a motion to call this meeting to order.
Second.
Second that, let's do this.
I know. Why? I'm proud of you too.
Go. Why are you?
As senior member, not the oldest member here, as senior member of the City Council, in absence of our president, who's on a family vacation, I will call this meeting to order, and the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson Burgos,
Here.
Bartley,
Here.
Bresnahan, Leahy,
Present.
LeBron Martinez,
Here.
Lisi, McGivern,
Here.
Murphy,
Here.
Sullivan,
Here.
Tallman,
Here.
Bacon,
Here.
Valentin.
All rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
Charter and rules state that the senior member does open the meeting. If there's no objections, I do volunteer to run the meeting as long as I
objections, so
can
moved.
last.
Second.
And if I don't make it, Counselor Tomlin will second the volunteer to come up and do a tag team here.
Mr. President, I have a point of clarification.
Yes.
Councilor Tallman and I were having a healthy discussion earlier today. Now, he has 20 years in as a city councilor. I have 19. But my 19 is, it's straight. He skipped a few years. So who has more seniority, myself or my tall friend?
That's easy to answer, Counselor Tomlin.
20's more than 19.
And that is, I'm not just shooting from the hip on that. It's total years. Ask Counselor Murphy how many years he has.
He was right. How many?
Midsummer Nightmare. This meeting is the combination of 4 July and August meetings that we combined together for a number of different purposes. Our subcommittees have been meeting, not as frequent, but have met throughout the last month and a half. And we have a healthy agenda to get through, which is going to get us through into our first Tuesday in September. I encourage anyone, if there's something we're going to take a final vote on this evening, debate, speak, ask questions, all you want. If it's something going to committee and we're not taking a final vote, let's limit our talk and get it into committee so we can get out of here at a reasonable time. Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Before we continue tonight, can we take a minute of silence for the gun violence that has gone on this past week?
I think that's a very good notion. Yes. At request, and I think on behalf of everyone here and everyone in the city of Holyoke, a moment of silence for all the tragic events that have taken place over the last few days. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to do 2 quick things and go right to public comment, and then Councilor Murphy's going to make a motion to suspend rules, which we're going to try to limit to this evening, just to keep things moving. But item 1 is laid on the table. It's from the auditor, but it's actually a supplemental budget from the mayor. I see no need to take it off the table. We do have a legal opinion, I believe, from the city solicitor. I don't know if that's been made available yet, but it kind of states what we talked about at the last meeting questions, even though it's a supplemental budget. It's more of an appropriation than it is with the budget rules. So we would have to eventually act on it completely up or completely down. So I think we'll leave it up to the president to see what he wants to do next. If there's no other motions. Item number 2, the chair would suggest that we take this off the table and dispose of it.
Item 2, take up the
So
table
moved.
for
Motion made,
disposal.
second to remove item 2 from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If you note that this is free cash from 2019, fiscal year 2020, which took place in 2019, there is no more free cash from fiscal year 20. We are now in fiscal year 21. So the chair would entertain a motion, as is both our precedent and by law, that we vote and deny this request, even though it's a mute vote, because there is no way we could pass it. On the motion to pass the first reading, all those in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion made, second to pass the second reading. The chair encourages everybody to vote no. If there's no discussion or questions, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote no, it essentially denies the request, which cannot be passed anyways.
Tallman,
So we're voting yes to pass it?
No.
To say no? We're voting no?
Voting no. The motion was to adopt it, which is fine.
Adopt it, okay.
And the vote to no would kill it.
No.
Bacon,
No.
Anderson Burgos. No. Bartley,
No.
Leahy,
No.
LeBron Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
No.
McGivern,
No.
Murphy,
No.
Sullivan.
No.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you denied the motion, which was laid on the table and died essentially a death because we're in the new fiscal year. We do have public comment. We do have two speakers this evening. We welcome them. No stranger to the City Council chambers. We call David Yost of 20 Sydney Avenue first.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
On the side. No.
No.
The button on the side or the?
How about the, now it's on, all
There you
right.
go.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. I'm here to speak on number 8 on the agenda, a non-binding question that about 40 of us have petitioned for. It simply states, shall the city of Holyoke build 1 to 2 affordably funded, keywords, new schools? The reason for this, obviously, we've had a lot of concerns about the debt exclusion, you know, that wouldn't be very favorable on the city's finances. It would affect lower income people a lot more harshly than higher income people. And this, by adding this non-binding question, would make our intentions clear. It's not that we're opposing the concept of new schools. The issue is the way it's being done. So this would, I think, bring a lot of clarity, be able to make us as voters express what our true feelings are. Because say, for example, the debt exclusion doesn't pass, it would make it clear to the state, we want the new schools, but we want it more equitably funded. So if I'm asking if the council could hopefully act on that and hopefully vote favorably. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our second speaker signed up is Kristen Beatty of 149 Central Park Drive. Kristen, welcome.
Just feel like. Hello? All right, hi. I'm Kirsten Betty with a group called Last Tree Laws. We're trying to run a ballot measure for environmental health for a commission, so I would love everyone's help. I'm here to ask for a resolution from the town to address the risk of the wireless that we are exposed to, and I want to read briefly the information that, despite the fact that the International Agency of Cancer and all these people who know what they're talking about have said that it's unhealthy, the FCC has promoted expansion, and they've had auctions, and they have preempted the local zoning control, and they also have implemented a rule to allow landlords or renters to put an antenna on the house for off-site users, which means that they could have rental agreements on people's houses and co-location. So they're taking away zoning control. So I want to ask you for a resolution that you oppose this and that you support the legislation that exists to halt that. And also, I was asked to try to work on ordinances. Really, on my own, I don't think I can do it. So if anyone has any idea on how we could create a group of people, or perhaps I could work with a lawyer in the town, that would help. I have 2 ordinances here that I brought. I can always email them. I have an ordinance from the town of Burlington. So if you want to use that and copy that, I'll hand that to you. And then I have this other example. And I guess that's it.
Kristen, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Can I suggest on the copies that you have there that you could email them or
Yes.
file them with the city clerk? We cannot receive something, it's not a public hearing this evening, it's public comment, so we cannot receive anything except your comments, which we appreciate. and then we'll each get a copy of it. If you want to email it to one of us, we'll make sure everybody has a copy real quick. Councilor
Mr.
Bacon?
President, thank you. Just as a point of information, we've taken this up in ordinance, it's tabled, and we're waiting for that very information in committee, so you can send it directly to me or any member of the committee.
Okay,
Okay?
that sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you again. Councilor Bartley, I'm not sure if Councilor Murphy had a chance to ask you. We have two guests here from Nueva, and Councilor Murphy was wondering if you could take up the transfer of property on Main Street.
I'm sure he probably asked me. I don't remember, but that's all right. Just, why don't we go ahead and take up, go out, suspend the rules and
Take up item number 18A.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion made and second to suspend the rules to take up item 18A. Is there any discussion on suspending the rules? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is from the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred an order at the Honorable City Council in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B in the Holyoke Procurement Ordinance, vote to accept an offer from Nueva Esperanza Incorporated to purchase the surplus city-owned land at 405-407 Main Street for $1,000. The land is approximately 2,614 square feet in size and identified in the Holyoke Assessor's records as map 028, block 07, parcel 002. This property was awarded to the city of Holyoke by a land decree with a judgment recorded in Hamden County Registry Deeds of Book 22181, page 379. It is business highway. It was originally, or at the last time assessed, with the building $24,800. The committee recommends that the order be adopted. Councilor Bartley,
A motion
Sullivan,
receiving
Tallman, and Murphy.
motion to receive and adopt the committee report
Motion-
and to
Second.
approve the transfer.
Motion made second to adopt the committee report approving the transfer of property for the said sum. Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, Mr. President, this was a good discussion, and we had a lot of cooperation from the Office of Planning and Economic Development that kind of led us to this. Marcos indicated that the lot is basically unbuildable due to the BH zoning, and the BH zoning requires certain setbacks that probably preclude it from being developed. But Nueva wants to activate the lot, he said, for community use. The sale price is $1,000. It's but a fraction of what was lost in taxes, which I left my bag at my office, which was never good. But suffice to say, there was about six figures in taxes that were left unpaid. You're going to find the same thing is true with 18B as well when we get to that down the road. So it's a little lot that's sort of an alleyway almost between Nueva and then there's one building, and then two doors down is El Mercado. So we felt like it was it made the most sense to put in the hands of a developer. Perhaps they can open the space up a little bit, as Marcos indicated, for community use. Probably not going to be a building anymore, but at least it'll be populated and maybe some activities will take place. Therefore, we recommend that we, as full city council, approve the order as written.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, and thank you for allowing this, Mr. Chairman. Two things, and I did meet with Cynthia Espinosa, the executive director, after our meeting, because there were some questions as to what might be happening, and some of their thoughts are they're looking at potentially an outdoor theater. They were looking at staging, creating an old San Juan type of feel there, where they would have poets come in, and they're also talking about maybe some kind of covered staging as well. So they're looking to bring the community in there to do some things, and I certainly recommend that we adopt this. It'll go along the lines of the other issues that are coming up in the area in terms of the redevelopment of South Holyoke, and it's an asset. There's nothing else that really could go there. And obviously, they're going to have to invest some money in terms of putting in the theater and other things. But I mean, their goals are admirable, and I think it would be an asset to South Holyoke.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. So myself and Sheila Morrow, being the co-marketing directors of development for the St. Patrick's Parade and Road Race, we met with a gentleman that got hired by the city to look at kind of a marketing plan. And we met with him some time ago. And one of the biggest areas that he thought the city could jump on right away is having a spot in the city of Holyoke somewhere, kind of like an old San Juan. Something like, you go to New York, or you go to Boston, you have the Chinatown, you have the Italian section. If you had a spot like this where there's entertainment, there's food, there's music at nighttime, it would bring people in, and people would build, surrounding it. I think it's a great idea, so I'm supporting it, and I wish them the best of luck.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I'd like to speak in favor of this. I think just kind of piggybacking on some of the comments that were made already, the city is moving forward on the Corazon de Holyoke project that's going to be a placemaking series of projects, and I think that this fits in very neatly with that larger picture. So I see it really dovetailing and supporting something that there's already an existing framework for. So I wish them the best with this.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I'm very much in support of this in this area of the city with what's happening down on Main Street. And I think a theater or a little outdoor plaza would work great in that area. Very familiar with that. I worked in that area back in the early 80s when it was very active and busy, and I'd like to see that area active again. And I also did a little acting back in my service days, so if you need somebody to step up, I'd be happy to take my crew down there with me. The council, some of my council members down to put on a show. So.
I'm there.
Joe, you in? Are you
There's
in?
been no acting in your later days here?
Maybe a little bit.
Any further discussion? Councilor Brown Martinez.
Of course, after working at Nueva Esperanza for 15 years, it was one of the dreams of the community to bring it alive to simulate areas of Puerto Rico, and I think this has come to fruition, and I'm happy and support of this, so thank you.
Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, the motion on the floor is to receive the committee report to adopt, approving both the transfer for the sum indicated as $1,000. This is a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting in favor of that. If you vote no, you're voting to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've adopted the transfer. Cynthia and Juan, thank you for your presence this evening and at the DGR meeting. Moving to communications, item number 3 is a communication from the mayor reappointing our fire chief, John Pond, as to serve as the emergency management director for the city of Holyoke. It's a 1-year term which will expire January 2020.
Motion to adopt.
Receive
Adopt.
and approve the reappointment.
Motion made second to receive and approve the reappointment. Is there any discussion? Councilor Murphy.
Just one question. A 1-year term by January 2020 is 6 months, so
You think we might be getting this a little late?
it was, the date, I think, was in June. So,
It is what it is.
So
Yeah.
was it
And
next
maybe
year?
it's supposed to be June then, and that's where
Yeah.
the typo is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, can we entertain maybe a little bit of an amendment to the motion that we will approve the actual year date if it's June? That make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make that
it
motion.
is.
On the amendment, all those in favor?
Second,
Aye.
Any opposed? And if that doesn't work, we'll have it at our next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 4 is also from the mayor, reappointing the following individuals to serve as the commissioners for the Council on Aging for the city of Holyoke.
Motion that we receive and approve the reappointments.
Motion made second to
Second.
receive and approve the reappointments. Is there any discussion?
They're all good people.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Can I
Yes,
have,
Councilor Brown Martinez?
these commissioners, do they get a stipend?
I don't believe so.
No?
Negative.
Okay. Just,
I think they work out of the goodness of their heart, if I remember correctly.
no, just making sure, thank you.
Nope, that's a good question. Item number 5 from Brenna Murphy McGee, the MMC, regarding a spreadsheet on cuts for the budget for fiscal '20.
Make a motion, we received, I believe we all got copies.
When?
I don't think we
I
did
don't
get
have one.
copies.
We haven't
What
got
copy
copies
did you
of
get?
that?
Have it?
I didn't get an email,
got
which
a
I
copy.
usually do.
That was an email.
Okay.
Motion table.
Say again? We got it in June? Yeah, I got a copy.
I didn't get it.
Can I make a suggestion that we're receiving it this evening and that we have our administrative assistant get an email or a hard copy to all of us? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 6 from Brenna Murphy and our administrative assistant Ryan Allen. These are minutes of the June 18, 2019 meeting. It seems like that was so long ago.
Make a motion to receive?
Motion made second to
Second.
receive. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Item number 7 from Cheryl Dugray, Executive Director of Hoyok Retirement Board, to accept the provisions of Chapter 188, the Acts of 2010 Municipal Relief Act, Section 19, to increase the cost of living adjustment known as the COLA for our base of retirees.
Motion to receive and send to finance.
Motion made second to receive and send to finance. We will ask Cheryl to come in and at least one of the commissioners to discuss this and see what the costs are and where we are in terms of unfunded liability. But I think it's a good thing to do and when we can. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 8 is from the residents and voters of the city of Holyoke, requesting for a non-binding question to be placed on the next general election. The undersigned request that in November 5th, 2019, the question would read, should the city of Holyoke build 1 to 2 affordably funded new schools? Motion to receive
Can we
and
receive and
refer to charter
the
and rules?
clerk? Oh,
Charter and rules, I'm just going to, under discussion, that's fine.
Okay, for purpose of discussion, a motion is received before the Committee on Charter and Rules. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I don't mind this going to charter and rules for discussion. It may be useful to have it there following the ballot referendum that we have this November, because I think that it's going to be very confusing for voters to have multiple questions about schools on the ballot. And we have very formal, regulated language that comes from the state DOR for how to ask this question. And I think that any meddling with the other questions that may be on there related to schools is going to create just conflicts for people or confusion that's going to not be in service to anyone.
Any further discussion? On the motion, refer, Councilor Bacon.
thank you. I guess I would just say that I think the voters could reasonably read the questions and know that one is binding and one is non-binding relative to the nature of the questions. And there's been a lot of discussion throughout the community about the affordability. And I think to the point that was made by the speaker tonight, there's becoming a split in the community around the perception of whether people are supporting the education of the students. And I think it's a way for people to express their opinion relative to the schools where they may not necessarily be in favor of the affordability of the actual loan and debt override for $132 or $133 million, with the city residents bearing $55 million of that cost. So I think it would be able to be made clear enough on the ballot what each question is representing. So I wouldn't throw it out of consideration.
Any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 9 is from Megan McGrath Smith, a letter of interest for the Community Preservation Committee.
Make a motion to send to the CPA committee?
Public service.
Would this be our appointment?
This is our appointment.
Yeah.
It is our appointment. I thought we did appoint her already, though. No? She was the only
Think so.
person that
No, well-
expressed interest?
I'm not even sure what she's expressing it. Ms.
Councilor
There's a
Barley.
vacancy on that committee.
Yeah, I mean, if we advertise for it, I'm glad she's expressing interest, but she's not on the committee, and she's a lovely person, but the process is to have it go to public service. That's our process.
Second.
Unless we suspend rules. So,
Any further discussion? The motion is before the Committee on Public Service. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, this is the first time I've been involved with trying to appoint someone to CPA. So is there a time frame for the terms, and are there openings?
Yeah, there are, yeah.
Yes,
It
and
is-
yes, there's
it's
an
now?
opening. Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
And we don't have all the appointments. We have
3.
three.
Three of them, yeah.
And
four.
Councilor Barley, 4?
We have,
Councilor Barley?
yeah, we have 4. I just deferred, Counselor Sullivan's our representative from this, so I'm not sure who's not being reappointed or who doesn't want to be reappointed. It's unclear to me, because I haven't received any correspondence from current members. So, but listen, if there's a person interested in being appointed, then we ought to
Interview.
interview him. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan.
So just to make it clear to everybody, Andrew McMahon is stepping down.
There you go.
To the best of my knowledge, right now, Meg McGrath is the only person from the public that has applied. The only thing, and it should go to public service. It is a council appointment. And the only thing I would suggest is that we act on it, get it through as quick as possible, because the next round of funding has already begun, and it'd be key to get this position filled quickly.
Any further discussion? On the motion, we refer to Committee on Public Service. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
10, 11, 12 as a package, please.
Motion made second to suspend the rules to take up items 10, 11, and 12 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 10 is the minutes from the Parks and Recreation Commission, February 13, 2019. 11, Public Works Sewer Commission, Stormwater Authority minutes of May 6th and June 3rd, 2019, and the Fire Commissioner's minutes of May 15th. Motion is to receive.
Motion to receive.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So
Yeah,
moved.
Joe.
Counselor Murphy.
No.
And Counselor Barley.
Just under discussion, Mr. President, in agenda item 12, you'll notice there was a discussion at the board relative to recouping the funds from Action Ambulance, but a fraction has been, so I'm hopeful that we can get something, I mean, sorry about that. We've had discussion in committee, we've had discussion in city council, we've had discussion with the fire chief, we have discussion in the fire commission. The city is owed $80,000. This organization, listen, they've taken both of my parents to hospital. They're wonderful, I mean, in the last month. But it's not the EMTs, it's the management. They signed a lease, well, they signed a lease 95% into the lease, but they did sign the lease. In other words, they didn't sign it to start. They signed it in the last month when the lease was about to expire. That's how great we're running the ship, Mr. President. And we're going to get to item 12 in a item 13 in a second, where we're going to approve a lease that's already, the season's over. So that's how we do business here, Mr. President. But nevertheless, the city's owed the money from this group. I'd like to get a better update, either from the fire chief or from the law department. And if I have to, I'll just file the order for it for the next meeting, and we'll ask for it. But I don't want to suspend rules now, because it's not fair to the law department, because I know they were in court all day today, so that's why I didn't contact them. But it's a fraction. It's a fraction, Mr. President, of what's due. And you can see it in the minutes that this organization is not paying, and they are a pretty big outfit. They signed the lease, pay the money. And why? If not, then we'll move on with another vendor. Thank you.
Counselor Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have the same kind of concerns, but it appears, and obviously I don't know this, but that they're paying $12,000. At that meeting, they agreed to pay $12,000 a week, which would be $72,000 by the end of June 2019. So hopefully they're pretty close to paying it in full, if in fact they did that. I don't know if they did that, but fire commissioners seem to think that's what's going to happen. So.
Any further discussion? Our city solicitor's got her hand up.
A motion to suspend rules to allow the city solicitor to
Motion made
speak.
second to suspend the rules to allow the city solicitor to approach. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved.
We just had a meeting, myself, the fire chief, the mayor's office. We're in negotiations for their new leases, new contract. It's my understanding as of our last meeting, which was a couple weeks ago, they are paid in full.
Oh, good.
Counselor Murphy?
One last point, and then this is related to the hiring of new firefighters. I mean, and it's been something I've been advocating for a long. We continue to wait, and I know that we delayed because they're getting faster in the process, but we're already short firefighters, so I'm not quite sure why we're delaying anything when we're already short-handed. And I think they're hiring 8 more firefighters, but we certainly need to get them on board as soon as possible and not be delaying things. So hopefully they will in the future, just go ahead and make the appointments.
All set? All right, we've already voted on 10, 11, 12. We're on 13, which is a copy of the Mackenzie Stadium lease between the City of Holyoke Parks and Rec Department and Commission of the Parks and Recreation with the Valley Blue Sox Foundation Incorporated. Chair will entertain a motion to receive.
Don't we have to?
I'll make a motion to receive and refer to, we're supposed to approve these, Joe.
Right.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
the lease, as you pointed out, Councilor Bartley, and I think everybody's got a copy of it, started on June 1st, 2019, and will end
Next week.
6 days from now,
Like this week.
August 12th, 2019.
So I'm just I'll motion receive and send a copy to DGR, please.
Motion made, second, receive, refer to committee on DGR. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, this is, and I dealt with this when I was on the Parks Commission, and this has become more and more something that aggravates me. I'm all for having the Blue Sox here, but we're subsidizing them rather than them paying us and letting us do other things. My second to the last year on the Parks Commission, we spent over $10,000 and we were collecting $8,000 in rent. We spent $10,000 paying people and doing maintenance and all the other things, not counting what we've done in terms of capital improvements in terms of the concession stand, and the only people that use the concession stands are the Blue Sox. They also were, and they came to us at a meeting indicating that they were one of the top 8 collegiate teams in terms of attendance in the country. They certainly are doing well. They've had 3 different owners that have come in and all have been interested in continuing the process. I'm all for keeping them here, but they should be paying us so that we make some money that we can then use to provide additional recreational services for the people of Holyoke. Just as an example, now I run a baseball league and for kids. I go to Mackenzie, I pay about 3/4 of what they do for one game. I do it in 4 hours. They do their nights 7 hours. And yet I'm paying 3/4 of what they're doing, and I'm a Holyoke taxpayer, and I'm doing this for most of the Holyoke kids. So, I think we need to be fair, but we should not be subsidizing the Blue Sox. They are a nonprofit, but believe me, they are making some money. And that's fine, and that's great, and they have a good purpose. They provide great entertainment. But I really do hope that at some point we decide, let's see what it would take for us to put some additional money into our recreational programs and keep them here.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. As a big fan of the Blue Sox, and I hope they win tonight. I was at the game last night. I really hope they win. But we also have to talk about the intangibles of what they bring to the city. They bring, a plethora of cars from all over New England that visit our gas stations, our restaurants, our hotels. I was talking to people there last night that were from Rhode Island and another family that was from New Hampshire. And there's a lot of intangibles that we can't count. How the businesses around the area are doing because of the Blue Sox and how the crowds were spectacular last night. So there's a lot of other avenues of how they're helping the city of Holyoke too. Thank you.
The champion Valley Blue Sox.
2 times.
2 times.
2 times.
Yeah.
Going for a three-peat.
Hopefully.
Councilor Dahlman?
Yeah, I hope they win tonight, too. Councilor Murphy made a great point, and also Councilor Leahy. I think, next year maybe we sit with the Parks Department, look at what we can do to try to bring in more revenue. I know it's the 3rd owner. I've talked to the last 2 owners, try to get to a game or 2 every year, and it is great entertainment. And I know they are making some money. They have a lot of sponsors up. You see those fences where they hit those homes run over, and there's all these banners and sponsors. But I think there is something that maybe we can look at and work with the ownership and with the Parks Department to try to bring in some revenue for our own Parks Department to help in our program. So it's a very good point. And they do bring in a lot of money, outside money, that people go to convenience stores, restaurants, gas stations, et cetera. So we want to keep them, but we want it, like you said, to be fair.
Any further discussion? On a motion to receive before the committee of DGR, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. In absence of our presidents, we don't have to listen to a president's report, but in the spirit of President McGee, I think we can do some quick public announcements, seeing I have one. Your Holyoke Merry-Go-Round will be celebrating its 90th birthday a week from this Sunday, on August 18th, from 12 to 4 p.m. It's free of charge to everyone. Rides will be reduced to 90 cents. There'll be a number of things to do for family fun, many things, including antique vehicles, antique fire trucks. There's a barbershop quartet. The Miss Senior contestants are going to come and sing some of the 20s and 30s songs. Face painting, mountain park games for 25 cents, and all kinds of good hamburgers, hot dogs, popcorn, cotton candy. It's a family event, the Merry-Go-Round likes to say, as their give back to the public for the public support over the years. And it's also, I know everyone is saying, wait a minute, we just celebrated 25 years. It's 25 years in Heritage Park, but this antique carousel was built in 1928 and opened up at Mountain Park in 1929. So we're celebrating the birthday of the actual carousel. Councilor Burgos.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the Holyoke Fire Department and Holyoke Gas and Electric. Last night, my carbon monoxide alarms started going off, and they were there within minutes, servicing and checking everything out. Luckily, everything turned out fine, but it was a very scary moment for me and my family, and I just want to acknowledge them. Thank you.
Well said. Anything else under the President's report or public comment? Public announcements. Moving on to reports of committees. From the Ordinance Committee, who met last evening, the Committee on Ordinance referred an order that a handicap sign be placed at 131 Beach Street for Juan Colon. Recommended be adopted. Councilor Bacon.
Okay, so because we met last night and it was a quick turnaround, we do not have, the committee is recommending approval, but we don't have legal form yet. So to help move things along tonight, I would request that we take up items 14E and 14F as a package. The rest will remain tabled for legal form to the first meeting in September.
Okay, so 14A, B, C, and D, the motion is to leave on the table. Everybody have that? On that motion first then, 14A, 14B, and 14C, because they're not in legal form. These are at least 2 handicap signs and the fence ordinance, and all 3 handicap signs in the fence ordinance. Motion is to lay on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Motion made and seconded to take 14E with 14F?
14E and F as a package.
Okay. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 14E. You establish that in accordance with Mass General Laws 44, Section 53, the Police Department Auxiliary Service Revolving Account. Items 1, 2, 3, and 4 are just the general explanations of what a revolving account is. However, the recommendation is that the order has been complied with because of what happened last June, and which was reported to this body during our meeting last June. Councilor Bacon, committee report?
Did you want to read F too? No?
Oh, I'm sorry. F is the ordinance was referred that the auditor come before the ordinance to address the payment in lieu of tax programs in the city. Recommend that this is complied with, as the auditor came last night. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as Councilor McGivern already explained, this was originally how we would be funding the auxiliary police, but then they came up with a simpler, more straightforward method to accomplish it, and so that's why we're recommending that this is complied with. For 14F, relative to the report from our auditor, she had given us an initial report, and we had requested that she give us a little bit more complete of a report. So we all have a spreadsheet before us which has listed out all of the pilots that the auditor's office is aware of and is receiving revenue on, and that revenue is described. There is one question that has been sent over to our assessor's office, which is questioning what the 1/2 of the value relative to the Holyoke Health Center pilot means, because that was not clear to us in committee, how that will translate into the actual money. But it is showing all the sources from the different areas of the city and the amounts. For the top 4 listed, they were not able to put their hands immediately on the original contracts. They're going back quite a number of years. And the other ones that you see, they have the contracts in hand. So we found this to be a complete report in response to the order filed, and that it's complied with.
Thank you, and I want to thank the ordinance committee for meeting last night. I know you had a number of topics that came up in a
And I
couple
want
of
to
public
thank
hearings,
Tanya.
and
She waited a long time, and she was very patient.
very brave to do it the night before the Midsummer Nightmare meeting. Councilor Lacey.
Thank you. Just wondering if the rest of the committee members have a copy of that handout? Because I think there were enough submitted yesterday at the meeting for each counselor. Has everybody seen? So we should just look in the back to see if they got tossed into the jacket instead. I think Counselor Bacon does a good job of summarizing what was on the sheet. But everybody should take a look. And so I'm not sure if Counselor Sullivan has already filed an order to ask the mayor to renegotiate a pilot with the HG&E, but I think we should also be asking the mayor to renegotiate a pilot with the Housing Authority. You know, the Housing Authority pilot was just renegotiated or amended in 2017, but it is, I think, rather small in relation to the number of city services that the Housing Authority receives from the city. And if it's not small, I think we should just have a conversation to understand better where this number is coming from. So, yeah, I hope that we can find the handout and circulate that. If not, I'll have Ryan photocopy and email out the one that I have.
Thank you, Councilor Lacey. On this motion, is there any other discussion? Okay, so the motion on the floor is we're receiving both 14A and 14F.
Receive and adopt the committee report.
In adopting the committee report. The committee report is that they're complied with. We are not creating a revolving fund. We are not adopting that. We're just saying that something else took its place, so the committee did their job and discussed it. And the same thing, we got the report from the auditor. So on that motion, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Councilor Burgos? Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilor Bacon, we have another?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it on the agenda, but, so I think what we'll have to do is have a motion to take it out of committee. And that is for the special permit for the CANA provisions, which was an amended site for the marijuana dispensary. They had originally come in for 380 Dwight Street rear, and last night they came in for 380 Dwight Street in a larger space. They answered in the public hearing, which we then closed, and recommended approval of the special permit. The remaining questions around parking, traffic circulation, and security. And following the closing of the public hearing, we did make a recommendation to the full council tonight to grant the special permit. And for that, we don't need any legal language.
Correct.
So I'm not.
Is there a second to the motion first? Motion made and second to suspend the rules to remove an item from committee as described by Councilor Bacon, which is a special permit, amendment of a special permit. And doing so, just note that this was acted on last night in the ordinance committee meeting, which was both televised, and the open meeting law was certainly adhered to with the agenda being posted last week. And if anybody watched or was at the meeting last night, I think we know it was a very healthy discussion, and the ordinance committee did their due diligence. So with that motion to remove from committee, because it should have made the agenda, but it didn't, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. So Chair, and I entertain a motion to, the committee report would be.
So the motion is to adopt the committee report and grant the special permit.
Motion made second to adopt the committee report and grant the special permit. Councilor Lacey.
Thanks. I just want to make it clear to everybody here that because CANA Provisions was an early applicant, they had originally only 5 of the standard conditions that we've been adopting, which have turned into 6 standard conditions in terms of like local hires and using retired police for security when possible. And so we had to bring them into kind of compliance with everybody else in terms of what they're agreeing to with the conditions. And additionally, we asked them to, so part of the conditioning is to create screening for the dumpster, because the dumpster is on It's facing Dwight Street, and so it's going to be enclosed and also some sort of screening so that it's aesthetically pleasing from the street. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
I'm going to
Thank you for that.
suggest,
And if
Councilor
I-
Bacon.
There is also an additional condition, which would have generally been listed, which is that the applicant will develop a traffic mitigation plan as per letter dated 6/2/19 under the direction and approval of our city engineer, Mr. Parent. That is condition number 7.
That's 6, and then the one that I mentioned was 7.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, I had them written in a different order, but they're a total of 7. And the applicant was aware of the standard 5 and agreed to them in the public hearing.
Okay. So for on-the-record purposes and for doing this correctly, what we have before us, again, voted on last night in the ordinance committee, is a special permit for Cana Provisions Incorporated, 380R Dwight Street, Holyoke, Mass. It's a special permit modification. We now have 7
So just to be clear, 380R was the previous address, and 380 Dwight Street is the current address.
380, amended to 380 Dwight Street.
Yes.
Right, because I corrected, we had that order before
I
us on the
just-
table.
yeah.
and- Yeah.
Well, I don't have that. All I have is the application.
Okay.
So I don't know if Ryan is about to give me something I can read,
For the order?
or if someone can read it into the record. You know, Councilor Bacon, if you could, if you have it all.
The 5?
I don't have anything here.
I have it. You want me to go for it, Linda?
If you
It's
have
not-
it.
It's not the conditions, but I think what he's looking for is the special permit. So
Well,
that-
let's read the street address, the new address.
It's really 380.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R was the original one.
Okay.
380 is the amended one.
Yep.
Okay, noted, amended to 380,
Okay.
and then a special permit.
For a registered marijuana dispensary,
Okay,
710-2.
okay. And then special conditions.
Special conditions. You're gonna jog my memory. So they had already agreed to 5 in their previous special permit. So we renewed those previous 5 and added on the traffic mitigation as well as the screenings for the dumpster.
I'm comfortable, I was there. I just want to make sure we get everything on the record.
Well,
Counselor Barley.
Yeah, I think what Rebecca just said is spot on, because so they've already, they renewed their commitment to the 5 standard
Okay.
conditions
Which they're aware
from the
of.
prior permit. So those are being carried forward, plus the 2 additional conditions to which they agreed, including traffic mitigation and screening of the dumpster, which these gentlemen are really, they're-
Aesthetically focused.
Yeah, that's what they are, aesthetically focused. I like the way you put that. They're really all about making the appearance right. And on top of that, Joe, Mr. President, I would just point out that they're very encouraging about the number of jobs that they're creating. They've created a number of jobs in Lee, and it sounds like they're going to create in the mid-40s here in Holyoke, including having upper management. So, it's progress.
Counselor Bacon.
So just to be thorough, I have found the standards that we generally apply so that they can be read into the record. The standard conditions are, 1, that the owner of the building will always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum of 30% Holyoke residents for non-security positions. That hiring preference, 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department now living in the city of Holyoke. 4, that there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. 5, that there shall be no deliveries of retail or medical marijuana from the site to the individual homes, residences, or people. And actually, we have to amend our 7 to 8, because number 6 is that the hours of operation will be in compliance with the city ordinance.
Okay. I knew there was always one.
Yes. Which is why I
Okay, so
keep
6
these in
is
my
the hours of
folder.
operations as our standard hours throughout the city, correct?
Compliance with our
Compliance.
ordinances.
Both, being at the meeting and both hearing and understanding what has been done here and the applicant, and certainly everything is in order as far as I'm concerned. If everybody's comfortable, I'm just going to look real quick at our city solicitor and ask Crystal to say she's okay with this vote. I'm okay with the way we're voting. I just want to make sure we got everything.
The conditions are there. It's a special permit vote. I mean,
Everything's there.
I think everything's there.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to adopt with the conditions. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting in favor of that. If you vote no, you're voting to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LaBelle Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've adopted the special permit with conditions. And it looks like it's going to be our first dispensary. Congratulations. Item number 15A is from the Committee on Finance. The committee met last week. It was referred in accordance with Mass General Laws 44, Section 53A, that a grant known as the Mass Development's Commonwealth Places Grant be accepted, the establishment of a fund and or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of grant. The Committee on Finance, Councilor McGivern, Leahy, Tallman, and Sullivan recommend that this be adopted. Chair will entertain a motion to receive, pass the first reading.
Receive and pass the first
All
reading.
those in favor, Councilor Tallman will make the report, please.
I'm glad I took some good notes that night, Joe. I think if I miss anything on this one, colleague Councilor Sullivan will help me out on this.
We'll fill in.
Marcos Murrow came in and talked about a grant, the Mass Development Placement Commonwealth Places Grant. This is for the Main Street corridor. It's for actually visual art, building enhancements, cultural drawings, paintings, banners on the poles, wraps, murals. What happened was that I guess there was a goal, a fundraising goal of $20,000, and they actually raised $25,000, sort of like on a GoFundMe thing throughout the community. And after their expenses, it came down to $24,119 that was raised. And the Mass Grant is actually matching $20,000 to give a total of $44,119 for this grant. There's no matches for this grant for the city. Marco stated that we're in a tight timeline. They have until November 2020 to use this, but they're trying to get some work started actually by September 15th to October 15th for Hispanic Heritage Month in that corridor, actually from down by 391 all the way down to Lyman Street on Main Street. So it's a great grant. The Mass Development Grant has done things like such as the brownfields in the community, and it's really helpful to our community. And there's other things that may become of this in the National Endowment of the Arts that could get some funding down the road. And you know, this is something that really is going to enhance that Main Street corridor in our community. And we have all sorts of people that they have, I believe, an advisory board. They have residents and they have businesses that are on this board to help with, you know, the process of what's going to be done. You know, how are things going to be done along that corridor? And it's like I said, he wants to get started hopefully in September to get that going, the project going for that area of the city. And I think it's a great thing, especially with no match for the city. So that's basically my report. If there's anything that I missed, Councilor
Councilor
Sullivan.
Tallman, I think you hit everything right on the nail, and you got my vote to take over at the next meeting. Any further discussion?
Yes.
I think it was just incredible, the amount that was raised. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I think it's incredible the amount was raised also. I think it's great that we're not having to use any taxpayer dollars, that there's no matching fund. I think what a lot of people are accepting this, I'm going to be voting in favor of accepting it, and that it does come with monies from the National Endowment for the Arts, and they've raised this money. So that part of it's fine. The fact that we've got $45,000 coming in now, but we're still spending $80,000 additionally on top of this for art on Main Street out of CDBG money is upsetting for me. I have literally dozens and dozens and dozens of friends in the Hispanic community, and what we need are blight remediation, more of that. That's nothing to say that this art isn't going to help, but I guess I'll let it go at that. I always get myself in trouble with my analogies, but we're putting lipstick on something down there, all right? That's it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to pass the second reading.
Pass the
All those
second
in
reading.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The clerk will call the roll. You vote yes, you're voting in favor of accepting the grant. If you don't know, and that's both accepting the grant and the expenditure of the money that was raised along with the $20,000 for a total of, as Councilor Talman pointed out, $44,000 and some odd dollars. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting in favor. If you vote no, you're voting to deny.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've adopted the committee report and accepted the grant. We got a little bit of a problem. Committee on Public Safety. Our chair is not here this evening. Councilor Valentine actually emailed the president, and Councilor Valentine has got a work commitment, was unable to attend this evening. Councilor LeBron Martinez is on Public Safety, and that's it. So
Can I,
we've never actually come across this since we went to 3 members. Councilor Murphy?
if I can, because we were unable to get a quorum, I actually sat in on all of these items, so if
Sign the reports.
I'm pretty
Councilor
much-
Murphy will be signing the reports, and we can go forward. Sounds good.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
I knew the senior guy on the city council would come up with a solution.
You know, you're getting off my Christmas list.
Where do we decide who's going to make the committee report now? Jerry or Gladys?
I know it.
No.
You're right on that.
Mr. President, that was, Mr. President,
Yes, Councilor Bartley.
not that we're taking bows, but I'm glad we did this, because this is a rule change
Yeah.
that we instituted
And that's
to
saving
allow a
us.
non-committee member to sit, so we can move this stuff
It
along.
makes a big difference, especially with the 3 people, the 3-person committees. But with all committees, it's helped out so far.
Yeah.
My time is just getting worse as they go here, right?
I do. Don't say that. Don't say that. I thought I
think I'm good. Thank you.
I signed the other one.
So, Pete, thank you.
I won't make
Yep.
you walk over here for nothing. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
No, I'm good. I got a,
You're welcome.
I signed it.
You didn't get the memo about the dress code? You didn't get the memo about the dress code? It must be the seat.
all right. You know what they say about idle time, Councilor Leahy? Item 16A, these are committee reports from the Public Safety Committee. To whom was referred an order that a pedestrian safety study be done in the intersection of Northampton Street, Dwight Street. Pedestrians have expressed concerns that vehicles making right turn on red from Northampton Street onto Dwight Street are failing to be cautious for pedestrians crossing Northampton Street, resulting in near hits. The recommendation from the committee is that this order was complied with.
Yeah.
Make a motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
I'll
Second.
move.
And any report.
Just
Councilor Murphy?
Real quick, and I think this was one Anderson Burkos' order. They have made improvements on that. There were some concerns that the walkway was too close to the turn, and they've moved it, and they've tried to make it so that, in fact, people taking a right turn are aware that there's a pedestrian crosswalk. And that was,
Enough said.
city engineer Parent brought that up, so everything, he thinks everything is back to order and we should be good.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Motion is to adopt the committee report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 16B, the Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the chain link fence at the Lieutenant William Shepard Playground, shared playground, be removed unless there's some rational reason for keeping it in place. It cannot be removed, then please explain why and at least replace it with something that's more attractive and that doesn't become a magnet for plastic bags and litter. Recommend the order's been complied with.
Make a motion, committee report be received and adopted.
Motion made second to receive this committee report and adopt. Any discussion? Councilor Murphy?
Real quick, I mean, I know Councilor Bartley has been trying to get the fencing removed. I believe it was superintendent that talked about going to the state and getting an authorization to be able to remove it. They've got some issue that there has to be something coming off of 391. They were trying to rectify it and eventually either get something removed or put something better there.
I thought he was getting it.
Councilor Bartley?
That's a very good summation, so I want to thank the chair and the committee for taking this order up a couple times, or Mike McManus for help pitching in. Mike indicated that this is going to get removed one way or the other, either directly or indirectly through Mass DOT. There's no rational reason for a chain link fence to be, well, first, when you pull up 391, you got to hit the panhandlers, but then once you get past the panhandler at the top of 391, then you run into the chain link fence, which all it does is collect trash and bags and all the rest of that. It's really a horrible. And then you go beyond that and you go into beautiful, what's now, I think, a beautiful park on the left in Jackson Parkway, which is, Mr. President, just an amazing development. I mean, that's something that the Housing Authority should be very proud of, and all the homeowners there. So just on the side. But the park, for Lieutenant Sheard Park, it's a lovely park, Mr. President, but it's been held hostage by this awful looking fence. So I'm going to follow up with Mr. McManus after this meeting, among other things. I'm going to follow up with him, and then we're going to see when indeed this will come down, and when it is going to come down, just like the implosion today. Finally, Mr. President, that smokestack in Smith's Ferry, after being promised 4 years ago when you were on the DGR committee, it's going to be down in 6 months. Lie, but 4 years later, it comes down. So I will make sure a communication is sent to City Council indicating when the chain link fence is removed.
I did keep in communication with my former neighbor and keeper of the property up there, Mr. Molkler, and he did tell me that the delays were more of public safety reasons than anything else. But it did seem 4 years is a long time after the promise.
Public safety and asbestos, Joe. It was chock full of asbestos, and we know that. But this is not, the Dave Bartley Company out of Holyoke. This is Engie out of, Paris. They got 50,000 employees. I mean, they know what they're doing.
Well, now we can say they did.
But they're just making stuff up before us. Like,
If anybody
whatever.
saw the video, you can catch it tonight at 11 o'clock, but it is pretty incredible.
It's impressive.
Councilor Lisi?
I made a trip down the block to witness the smokestack come down, and I was really actually impressed because the stack comes down practically whole because it's such a controlled demo. I was expecting it to, crumble to the ground, but it was really like Leaning Tower of Pisa and then off into the ground. So I thought they did a good job. I was definitely, as a neighbor, concerned that there was going to be a lot of dust pollution, and it didn't have that sort of effect at all. So I was pretty happy with the way that it came down and witnessed a bit of Holyoke history.
I think the angle from the river showed a little bit of dust, but nothing what we thought was going to happen. Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to adopt the committee report. The order was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 16C, Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the Conservation Commission, DPW City Engineer come before the City Council to discuss the potential new access road for University Park and the wetland surrounding that potential road. Recommend that this order has been complied with.
Committee report be received and adopted.
Motion made second to receive the committee report and adopt. Councilor Murphy?
My mind's a little vague on this one, but
I was actually with Councilor McGee, the maker of this order, and there was, we'll lay it to rest as a rumor that on Bassett Road, there was going to be a new road going into University Park, and there's actually a paper road there, not the whole way in yet, but a paper road that could be made into a new road. But I guess the, whatever it was, it's not coming to fruition. and the neighbors are happy now that that there isn't going to be a cut-through into Bassett Road. Any further discussion? The motion, the order is complied with. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. 16D, Committee on Public Safety, to move further order, the DPW and city engineer consider ways to improve the safety of pedestrian crosswalks at Beach and Hampshire, Pine and Sergeant Streets. Recommend the order has been complied with. Motion to receive, adopted with the committee report. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, this was at a request from the senior center with pedestrians trying to cross primarily Beach Street at Hampshire. City engineer indicated that we couldn't put stop signs there, it wouldn't be authorized, but they are looking at putting a rectangular rapid flashing beacon on that corner to make people aware that pedestrians are crossing. I think the cost of that is like $10,000, and they potentially had some money that they were going to be able to slow traffic down on Beach Street at Hampshire.
Any further discussion? On the motion, the order is complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Committee on Public Safety, who moves a further order, the DPW superintendent provide the city council an update on the efforts to improve public parking. Please provide updates on the contract with the third vendor party. Please provide updates on the year-over-year revenue collection, and please update the city council with any updates if relevant relative to the new practices for the administration and collection of the revenue. Recommend that the order was complied with. Councilor Murphy?
And again, I think at this point that we were changing over, and basically Superintendent McManus was looking for time to get things together with it, and before he could really come up and make a full report and recommendation. So, we met for a while and did not really come to a conclusion, but I think Superintendent McManus talked about maybe coming back in the future, offering an update.
Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, this is an order I filed. The report from DPW was thin, to say the least. I'll follow up with Mr. McManus on this as well, but I think that the point is that the problem is being recognized, and it's pretty apparent that we've got a. Mr. President, you were here 2 years or 3 years ago at the budget hearing when the mayor came in, promised that the revenues from the parking decks were going to turn around and were going to propel the city forward. Didn't happen. It was a new vendor, all systems go, didn't happen because he got rid of the old vendor. Didn't happen. So what happens? We throw out the revised vendor, who used to be the vendor before the old vendor, and now we're a do-it-ourselves city, and I think most of us received emails from a constituent over the last few weeks about the atrocious condition of the Mayor Prue garage. It is despicable, Mr. President. Mounds of trash, feces, urine, piled up in a public building, Mr. President. It's unbelievable. It's a despicable condition, but this is now, you can't point to a third-party vendor, Mr. President. We got to point to ourselves. I know nobody wants to get mad at the mayor, but he's the one that said, we're going to turn this thing around 2 years ago. Right there, most of us were here, all but one. Most of us are here for that. Turning around with the revenues. Didn't happen. And yet this thing continues to perpetuate itself. So now we've got a new plan, Mr. President. And the new plan is to do what? Have the city run it. I would say not off a flying color start, Mr. President. So I'm grateful for the constituent for bringing this to light. I know that DPW is overwhelmed at times, but they're the ones taking this on. If you need help, you got to express it to somewhere, to a city council president or to somebody, and let us know how we can at least bring it to the public's attention, and maybe get the chief executive to give you the proper tools to amend this to take corrective action. it's not a great way to run a city, and yet we want to pay all these parking fees. Mr. President, we had legitimate business people in last night saying that they want to send their employees from their cannabis business and use our parking deck. I almost told them, don't do it. I mean, unless you want to hurdle all sorts of terrible things. Now, I do understand that 3 of the 4 stairwells were cleaned out, but to even get that condition, Mr. President, this is on all of us. Somebody's got to start taking ownership of this. I don't feel as though it should be the part-time city councilors, though we're the ones often to blame. I think it's got to be the full-time employees, and starting with room 1, Mr. President. I'm not trying to be mean, but he's the one that came in and made the promise. It wasn't me. He made the promise. Didn't happen, Mr. President, and I think we've gone nowhere but backwards in the meantime. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I support the comments that Councilor Bartley made, but I do want to bring up a couple of positive points. And that was that finally the day pay modules at the parking garages are functional. And they had been non-functioning, I want to say, for almost 2 years, which led to no day parking revenues and all the monthly payers being really the only source of revenue. And they're moving to a cashless system where possible throughout the city that's going to make things more remote and more modernized. So it has been a very long, slow path, the same path that we took on collecting on the sewer bills. Unfortunately, we seem to do things the slow, hard way, but those points I thought were encouraging. Thank you.
It's very positive.
Thank you in no ways to the comments. Councilor Tomlin?
I just want to state that I really echo Councilor Bartley's comments on that. I did get a chance. We had a committee meeting last week and took a look at the garage after seeing those pictures and with a couple of my colleagues. And, it's true. Someone has to take ownership for that. If they don't have the resources or funding, they got to look to that. And I know the department sometimes can be overwhelmed with the number of employees they do have. I talked to Mike again today. I talked to him last week. And I know he understands the situation, and, it's not just there, it's other areas of the city too. It's the library, it's Veterans Park. We can't just have private citizens going up, picking up trash bags and cleaning up this place. Our employees going to have to do that. And whatever resources we have, whether it's, I know we pay ROCA. We talked the other night about the trial court to try to get some of those employees here, the sheriff's department. Anybody that can help out in some way. I mean, within about 10 days, we're having a big festival down here. And I'm sure that's going to get cleaned up. But what happens after that? I mean, it's got to be continual. And, it's sad to see those conditions. And part of it is the people that are out in the streets. And it's unfortunate, but they're not picking up themselves. We have to somehow get the resources, get the people, whether it's with the Parks Department or the DPW, to keep an eye on that. I know Councilor McGee has an order in tonight about that parking deck with the police department and the DPW to monitor that issue, because there's no way that should be going on in a city like Holyoke. I know it goes on in some communities, but to go on that long where you can see the trash and the needles and the bags and clothes that are just lying there, it wasn't just overnight the last 2 nights, it's been there for weeks. So that's something that we have to look at, and if we have to put a little pressure on room 1, we do that. I a lot of times, a lot of my colleagues feel I go along with the mayor and a lot of his votes, but if there's something that I don't agree with and I see that is wrong, I'm gonna bring that forward. So that's my comment for tonight.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes, I look forward to Councilor Tallman doing that. I also want to say that this is disgusting. This was on the I-Team. This was on the news. Kids and families that can't go can't park in there for the Holyoke Children's Museum or the Volleyball Hall of Fame, or enjoying their time in the park here. And I don't think that we should have high school kids that are working for the Parks and Rec going in there with the chance of getting pricked by a needle. There's needles. There's human feces. This is absolutely disgusting. Something has to get done. Something has to get done. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilor Bartley?
May I just want to follow up on Councilor Tallman's point. I want to thank Councilor Leahy for his comments as well. But just, this is not a volunteer effort. And last night, Mr. President, we had legitimate business people that are going to invest a lot of money in a property on Winter Street. And it came to light during the ordinance committee hearing, and I want to thank the chair and the members of the committee, they ran a great meeting last night. It came to light that, and we had, okay, you were there, Mr. President. We had a very healthy discussion on speed humps on Bemis Road, a public safety issue. Okay, we all get it. It's dangerous. Well, this was an opening in a chain link fence going from Winter Street where children cross over active train tracks on a regular basis, and they now cut over an Amtrak line that has 2 trains north and south every day. It's going to have 6 trains in a few months, north and south. And we had a business person say, well, I'll fix it. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Thank you for your offer, but we're supposed to fix it. Or our DPW is supposed to tell Mass DOT to fix it. That's a public safety problem, a massive one waiting to happen. We just had a person in Springfield run over by a train 3 months ago. So this happens in the North End. So, I mean, these are school children. This is Ward 1. This is your mayor. So, I mean, these are issues that are known. So, to DPW and known to business people, and investing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, they want to build a sidewalk. So the gentleman said, I'll fix the fence. Well, hold on a second. I mean, we've got to get our act together on a few of these things, like from a city perspective or coordinating with DPW or whoever the federal people are that fix fences around rail tracks, Mr. President. I mean, this is pretty serious.
Councilor Bacon?
And just one final quick comment. I did forward those photos over to our head of our Board of Health because I felt that it's also a public health issue. And Sean did assure me that he would coordinate with DPW on this, because when you're starting to deal with some of the things that are present there, we really do need the coordination between the different departments. Thanks.
When you take over the chair up here, you don't enter into debate, as I know my Councilor President and former Councilor King would always remind me that. So I won't enter into debate. And this has nothing to do with all the comments, because I think this is a very important issue, and I appreciate the comments. But was there any mention at this meeting about a manpower shortage at the DPW?
On a variety of other issues, yes.
Okay.
And they kind of implied it was universal.
No, I heard there's, between workman's comp, some vacancies and some other reasons, not budget, that there is a manpower shortage.
Yeah.
Retirement, thank you. Not excuses, but, it is something that the DPW is playing with, and hopefully we can help if Mike can't get to that real quick and get the level of manpower back up, because that's important. Councilor LeBron Martinez.
I'm in agreement with a lot of the issue about a litter and our issues of certain areas in the community. It happens to be, as you know, that Mass Higher Holyoke, where I work during the day, we're running the summer youth program. And the youth themselves came up with a project that they're gonna come starting tomorrow. They're gonna take certain areas that has been listed as places to go and clean up. We are collaborating with Tapestry for the needles. They will not touch any needles, but we're going to be out with them cleaning certain areas that have been listed around Holyoke Public Library, certain areas, all on High Street. And this is places that they themselves identify. I also will be filing an order. They're talking about turning our community with paper bags instead of using plastic bags, because that's what they find a lot on the streets, which is a lot of the flying bags all over the city. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
If you see them on the street, say hi at least. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sullivan.
Thanks. Well, here we are. This litter, it's not just magically appearing and dropping out of people's cars that are parking in the garage. We've gone ahead and welcomed panhandlers, tolerated panhandlers on Main Street, on High Street. Come on down, sleep on the park benches, sleep in the parking garages, sleep on the gazebo over at at Curran's Warehouse. Get your free needles. Get your cheap heroin here in Holyoke. And this is where it's coming from. We've got judges and a psychiatric gateway here at the courthouse that has frustrated our police department, where we can't Section 35 these people, or nobody wants to go through the process anymore. Just hiring another person to clean this up, that's not the issue, that's not the problem. And we're not addressing the problem and where this is coming from. That's it.
Councilor Tallman? The gentleman we talked to last evening about cleaning up, doing his job, you think it would be okay to mention his name?
Absolutely, I was going to do that if I get up there tonight, because it's really impressive what he's doing in the city, yeah.
Yes. Well, why don't you if you could bring it up now?
Okay, we talked to a gentleman, the gentleman that sent us the pictures of the parking deck and the library, and is Bill Shanahan, and he's done a lot of work in the community. I guess he goes out for a couple hours, gets a couple bags, gloves, whatever, down at the Parks Department, cleans up Veterans Park, goes over to the library, cleans up around there, checks out the parking deck. I mean, it's amazing that somebody that cares that much about this community, I think, it's something to say that it's something that we maybe could look up to try to do our part. And of course, as public citizens just can't do it. We have to, we have full-time workers that have to do the work that we need to do. But Councilor Sullivan made a good point. I mean, it's not going to stop by just picking it up. We have to look at the root of the problem, and it's not an easy fix. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is that the committee report be adopted, that the order was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 16F, the Committee on Public Safety determines refer an order that the Law Department give a legal opinion as to whether or not panhandlers can be prevented from standing on the islands in the middle of traffic due to safety reasons. This is a matter of safety and nothing more. Recommended this order was complied with. Motion receive and adopt the committee report.
Second.
Councilor Murphy, or?
Yeah, and I would defer to the law department, but basically, freedom of speech and freedom of, as long as they're not doing something that truly endangers, we're not going to be in a position to remove them from panhandling on traffic islands and things.
Can I ask a question?
Councilor Leahy.
If I could, maybe to the good counselors that attended the meeting or to the law department, I understand I don't really understand it, but I hear what they're saying, the freedom of speech. But what about, the islands that, all these, I'm thinking one in particular on Northampton Street, right, as I take a right to get on the highway, that it's in memory of two children, and they're trampling over, all the hard work the parents did. They put down flowers in memory of their children. They put down, bark mulch. They made the island look beautiful, and people are standing on it. And it's not only that one, it's many other ones. And they're taking away the work that, parents did to remember, loved ones. Where does that stand?
Any further discussion? Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, that's a great point, but that again, the order was relating whether or not we could remove them on safety issues and those kind, obviously, and we did have, and I don't remember if we had a police officer at that meeting or the previous one, where they talked about, if they're doing those kind of things, where they're vandalizing things, then they could, in fact, cite them, and I'm not sure they would arrest them, but cite them with some kind of ticket or something. But obviously, then the other question is, how are we going to collect it? But it's obviously, it goes back to what Councilor Sullivan said. We do have a human problem in terms of people that have major issues and some that are just taking advantage of things. But our only thing we can do is try to make and try to strive to be excellent. So maybe we can have other people stand up and maybe stop some of these other people from causing these problems. But you're right. There's not much concern for damaging other people's efforts to make the city look pretty.
Any further discussion? Councilor Reagan.
Just a brief point. In one of the previous meetings, to your point relative to the flowers, a question was raised relative to the signs that were up that have been covered or otherwise interfered with. And it was clarified that the freedom of speech does not extend to defacing, covering, modifying public spaces, public property, et cetera. And that those could be properly corrected by our police, or even by a citizen could remove an inappropriate covering of a sign. Thanks.
Councilor Burgos.
I mentioned this before several meetings ago. About 6-7 months ago, I was driving my vehicle and I was on my way to work, and I almost hit a pedestrian who was standing at such median. I don't think that's where they should be standing at all. I understand it's freedom of speech, but those medians, that's not a place to stand. That's to divide cars and traffic and to keep the flow of traffic. People should not be standing there. Plain and simple. This is not an attack on freedom of speech. This is for the safety of not only those individuals, but the people in the car. I do not want to be held responsible for hitting one of them. This needs to end. Plain and simple.
Councilor Bartley.
Oh, we've been waiting 2 years for a report from the task force.
That met once.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to receive the committee report and adopt that it was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Committee on Public Safety, whom was referred an order that the mayor, the law department, police chief, commissioner, board of director, board of health director, and other parties that might help the discussion for the city to take action against the owner of the following properties: 173 Elm Street, 365 Appleton Street, 556 South Bridge Street. These properties appear to be owned by the same landlord and rate the highest number of police calls for residential properties in the city. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Second.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, this was a good, I know we had the city solicitor in, we had the building commissioner in, we had the health department in, we had the police department in, and the fire department in. And the two buildings that we talked about had the most police calls, the most fire calls, the least, very few building calls or very few health issue calls, basically on the view that there's a fear factor about bringing people into the building. Police and fire are the two. And there's another building, fire department actually mentioned a building down on West Street that is also owned by that same person that is one of their worst things for calls. So I think it was 50 West Street. I'm not positive on that address, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But I mean, clearly, and I know, and Crystal, I think, could to talk to this if we'd be willing to allow it. We're looking at filing a nuisance complaint, which would allow us to be in a position to take really aggressive action and have the landlord subsidize our actions or get out of the way at least, so that maybe we can get those buildings. And the South Summer Street or the South Bridge Street building is right next to the Ballerina Playground. I mean, one of the concerns of the residents of South Holyoke when the Ballerina was being built is, what are you going to do about that building? Because we have major problems there. And so that's the goal of the order. And I would like to see if we could have Crystal.
We have suspended the rules if there's no other objections. Crystal, can you address the Councilor Murphy?
Because she'll explain it far better than I am.
So we have nuisance letters that go out from the police department every time that a drug-related issue is reported at one of these properties, and the compilation of those can then go to the owner as kind of a final, what we used to call red letters. They were done back when Nicewinger was chief, and we're following that lead again this year. We do have another one of his properties in housing court for some other issues, so we're in talks with the owner. We're dealing with as many properties as we can. We have a couple of other larger ones that are on our radar right now, but we're in talks with the owner and talks with trying to figure out what to do with these properties in the best way for everyone involved, because some of the end result may not be favorable to some of the other occupants at these properties. So we have to tread lightly and make sure we're doing the best for the people who are a nuisance as much as for those who are not.
Any further discussion?
Yep,
Counselor Sullivan?
thanks. Is there any reason we just keep referring to it as the owner? The person's got 3 properties, and sheer magnitude of the number of police reports. Is there a reason we're not using the person's name? We're just using the generic owner here?
Is it Uchi?
What was that?
Is that a question for legal?
If you want to ask legal, you can ask legal.
It's public record, isn't it?
Just to be respectful, he's an owner, he owns properties just like everybody else in the city, and you're welcome
don't
to
think
use his
he's
name if
like-
you choose to. We have other properties, numerous other properties in this city that also have horrible owners, and we don't speak their names either, but
It seems to me this is the worst one in the city. The worst one in the city. And we're trying to give him the same respect as we would give to law-abiding, decent people that maintaining places that have no criminal issues and don't have nearly this magnitude of problems. For the record, I'd like to know the person's name.
Counselor Sullivan, I'll answer your question the best I can, and I'm not a lawyer. I know that for sure. All my lawyer friends tell me that, especially in the courthouse. I get what you're saying, but I think it's safer to let the issues speak for themselves at the moment. And, when these type of landlords do have their day, and they hopefully will have sometime their day in court, then the name will come out. But we don't want to be getting into a defamation of character, but we can speak about the issues, because the issues are real.
Okay, I defer on that. As far as defamation of character, the guy's done a pretty good job of defaming his own character. I'll let it go at that.
I'm not arguing your point. I'm just letting you know the way I see it. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, it is, I won't mention any names, but it is a LLC in Bedford, Mass. That owns the 3 buildings, and they are number 1 in police calls, fire calls, number 2 in police calls, fire calls, the top 2 that are on this order. We're not talking 5 or 10 police calls. We're talking hundreds of police calls. We're 30 or something arrests in the last year. We're talking shootings. We're talking, we're talking quality of life for the people in the building who are trying to live a decent life, and we're talking quality of life for people in the neighborhood. And if you go right, not too far from there, and I go to the McDonald's where we just had an incident, that's number 4 on the list for police calls, for business addresses. Is there a connection? I don't know, but it certainly seems like there potentially could be. So, I just encourage, and I appreciate the city solicitor and all the commissioners being here and offering their comments. Again, we need to be as aggressive as we can. It's not a building issue where we're talking, the electrical work is bad. This is the quality of life for those people is bad, and they're being held hostage.
So,
Councilor Brown Martinez?
I think we, as a city, we have to come up with some type of coalition that also addresses, like we're doing abandoned buildings, we're doing areas that need attention the same way that this is happening. We need to be doing that because it's not only this landlord. We have certain areas that need some attention because even the abandoned buildings are attracting today this needle, becoming galleries, becoming other things that I don't think we are addressing because it's too big. It's a big issue right now, and having a committee or a coalition that can address these type of situations with these landlords that we could come up with some provisions under anyone who comes here and buy buildings or some properties and then lives in another state. We should be making sure that they either having someone addressing while they're not around. Because to be honest with you, I crossed through that street and on Elm Street, and I've seen the landlord cleaning. I don't know if it's the landlord, if it's a foreman, somebody helping outside cleaning. And maybe, when they leave, the whole crowd comes back right into the corner, So and I know that they have some are they active? I don't know, but I've seen cameras there. So there's something that we as a city has to put our eyes on, as a city. It's not just when an issue comes up. It has to be an ongoing situation that we keep being vigilant to the situation. Because this is destroying every neighborhood. This is not the ones that we just called. There's a lot of the neighborhoods that are facing the same thing. So,
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is the committee report to adopt, and the order was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 16H, the Committee on Public Safety, to was referred an order that the Public Safety Committee meet with the Superintendent of DPW, review the city's capacity regarding the problem potholes. What would the city need to do to accelerate the pace of filling these sometimes dangerous situations? Recommend that this order was complied with.
Motion committee
Motion to
receive.
receive and adopt the committee report. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, this is definitely one area that he talked about, manpower shortage. 37 road employees, when he said he really needs 42. He indicated, because we did ask, did they need any additional equipment? And he said they were good with the equipment that they had, they just needed more people to be able to use the equipment. So we've got capital investment in equipment, but we don't have the people to be able to use the equipment, and therefore we're falling behind. And, again, it's another area you can't just allow this to continue. Somewhere down the line, we've got to address it, and let's not allow potholes to go for months because we don't have manpower to fix them. But that's the major issue right now is manpower. Hopefully they're going to get that corrected, and then hopefully the potholes will be filled a lot quicker than they have been this past year.
Councilor Brown Martinez.
So, Mr. Murphy, you're saying that, so that's not a budget issue, they're just short on staff? The budget is there to be able to hire, or?
He just talked about his staffing as 37 when he needed 42. He did not indicate that it was a budget issue as much as there were not employees there at this time. He did not talk about it as a budget shortage as much as that people have either workers' comp or other issues where they were no longer able to do this work. And so they were taking people off of other things like recycling and trash and doing other things. So manpower was his major concern there to get it done.
Right. The reason I do ask is just like he brought up, people, and many of us seen the emails or phone calls regarding the delay on the trash pickup or the recycling. And if that is the case, we need to help, I guess, promote what's needed in order to get this going, because it's affecting the whole service for the city. And I just wanted to.
Ask the mayor.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I think the other part of the equation was in some ways introduced to us by our city engineer, Bob Parent, last night in the ordinance committee meeting, where we started talking about how the city is going to be undertaking a pavement management plan so that we can understand where the worst areas are, where the most vulnerable areas are to road erosion and pothole development. And so it seems like a pretty great system where they literally take digital photographs of all the roadways, and then the system creates an electronic rating for the different areas of the city, and creates a pavement index so that funds can be spent more rationally on the areas that are most in need. And that seems like, manpower is an issue at the moment. And filling potholes is one thing, but I think, the potholes develop because we're not comprehensively dealing with pavement, writ large. And so we're just doing the patching, and while we can do the patching, and it's a cheap fix, I think we're we're kind of running in circles, filling in potholes, as opposed to doing something more systemic in terms of like a pavement management plan. So this seems to be coming down the road. I was really excited to hear about it, and I hope we learn more about it as it becomes implemented.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to adopt the committee report that this order was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to the Development Government, Committee on Development Government Relations. 18A was already taken care of. 18B, DGR met with whom was referred an order that in accordance with Mass General Laws 30B, the Holyoke Code of Ordinances, Procurement Ordinance, the City Council declared 18 West Glen Street as surplus property available for disposition. Said parcel is identified by the Holyoke Board of Assessors, map 113-00140. Parcel consisting of a vacant single-family house on 5,489 square foot lot. Property is more particularly described in the Hampden County Registry of Deeds, Book 3543, page 465. And on January 30, 2019, the property was awarded to the City of Holyoke in a final judgment in the Hampden County Registry of Deeds, Book 222540, page 196. Assessed value $97,600. Recommend that the order be adopted, that the property be declared surplus.
Motion receive, adopt the committee report, and declare the property surplus.
Second.
Motion made second to receive and adopt the committee report. Councilor Bartley.
Just a reminder, this requires a two-thirds vote. As you know, Mr. President, to dispose of a property requires a majority vote, but to declare it surplus requires a two-thirds vote. What we're asking the city council to do is to declare this property surplus and available for disposition. So the intent is to RFP it. And in committee, we had a good discussion. We appreciated Mr. Morel's input. He gave me updated numbers. So in committee, he said taxes owed were $1,600, but that was a number from 1997. He updated it. Now it's over $120,000 in taxes owed, which is unbelievable. How it gets to that point, Mr. President, is just it's beyond comprehension. But yet there it is. I do encourage any city councilor at large or ward, doesn't matter. Just when there are, especially single-family homes and homes that are R2 that are in disarray, that it's really important that you bring that to the attention of the OPED officials or the building commissioner, and let them know right away so that we can move these properties as quickly as we can back to the tax roll. And that's in fact what happened with this one. So we were able to move this pretty quickly, at least to get it out to surplus. And so now we can RFP it and hopefully have a bidder come along and give the city a halfway decent offer, and then put this back in the hands of a family. It's a very nice neighborhood, and I'm hopeful that we can support this order. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to receive and adopt the committee report that this order was complied with. To adopt the committee report that the property be declared surplus. As Councilor Bartley stated, it's a roll call vote, needs a two-thirds of the full body. Clerk will call the roll.
Common,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you have adopted the committee report and declared the property at 19 West Glen Street as surplus and available.
Mr. President, motion to suspend, take 18C and D as a package.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up items 18C and 18D as a package. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 18C, the Committee on DGR, to whom was referred an order that attached letters from the Morgan School's 8th grade in support of the Parks Bond package for the repair of the Valley Arena Park be submitted to the Development and Government Relations Committee. Recommended the order was complied with. 18D, also DGR, to whom was referred an order that the Mayor, Director of Planning and Development, and the Director of Holyoke Housing Authority meet with the DG and our committee to seek ways to include a parking lot at the corner of Clemente and Hamilton Street as part of the planned South Holyoke housing redevelopment around Carlos Vega Park.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee
Motion
report.
made second to receive and adopt the committee reports that both orders are complied with. Counselor Bartley.
18C was filed by Councilor Roman, the former Ward 2 councilor, and it was a pile of well over 100 letters from some wonderful 8th grade students at Morgan Elementary who are now in high school. And but it was I didn't read all of them, but I read 2/3 of them, along with the administrative assistant, and they're really amazing letters, well written, and the principal and the teachers at Morgan should be complimented for them. But seeing how we've made some great progress at Valley Arena Park, I thought it was time to finally take this up and move it out of the jacket. Sorry for the delay. And then the second order was a great order filed by the current Ward 2 counselor, and that we took this up twice. We had a really robust discussion in May. Was it May? Well, June. Sorry about that. June, where we had several stakeholders: Mike Moriarty, Steve Huntley, Maddie Mainville, and the lady, I'm blanking her name. She was not the director of Nueva, but just it wasn't Cynthia. It was another woman. Just a wonderful discussion relative to what's happening in and around this area. And then we took it up again. And Marcos gave us a pretty detailed history of what's going on in this area. What we wanted to do, Mr. President, and Councilor Murphy, better make sure I say it right, is that we want to make sure that the Office of Planning and Economic Development follows up with us, I think at some point in September.
September, yeah.
Okay, at some point in September with the final results. So this is complied with a condition, and I want to refer that condition to OPED, that we get a communication from Mr. Marrero to follow up with us with a final verdict on this order. And I'll defer to the Ward 2 counselor.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, this is, as you know, we're trying to revitalize the housing in South Holyoke, starting at Carlos Vega Park and primarily on Clemente Street, and then working to Southeast Street and working our way down towards Sargent and Adams Street. There is a vacant lot on the corner of Clemente and Hamilton Street that is owned by the Greek Orthodox Church. There is a parking lot that the city owns on Main and Hamilton that used to be the Skinner's Coffee House. For a while there was some dispute as to how we get to do this. I've been able to talk to quite a few people. I'm still, actually, last week when I met with Cynthia at Nueva, we talked about trying to find another compromise, because I think there's even a potential of doing and making everybody happy, but we have to get that parcel on Clemente and Hamilton as part of the housing project. If we don't, we leave about a 150-foot vacant lot when we're trying to revitalize the neighborhood, and it's a negative example. So I am working with all the parties, the church, the Nueva Esperanza, and the South Holyoke Neighborhood Association to try to come to an agreement, and then working with Marcos and those people to try to make sure that we in fact can put this together. But it's important in terms of the housing revitalization, which I'm hoping to see something in place starting next spring or summer, and that it would actually start on that corner. So it's important that we get that done. And it had been kind of thought it's not going to happen. I think now we've got a point where it can in fact happen.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is to adopt the committee report that both orders are complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving into our final section of the evening is motion, orders, and resolutions. And Chair will note that many of these will be going into committee, and if we can just, at best, limit our conversation on the item, should it go to committee or not go to committee. Item 21 is introduced by Councilor Murphy. The ordinance committee meet with the building commissioner and the city solicitor to discuss merits of establishing a fine for property owners who have had their property sealed off blocking street past a certain period. There are at least a couple of properties which are depriving others of an easy access to their homes and businesses with no immediate solution being proposed.
Make a motion to be received and sent to the ordinance committee.
Second.
Motion made second received for the Committee on Ordinance.
And
Any
my
discussion?
fastest comment, this is at a request of both Nueva Esperanza, the church, and the constituents on Hamilton and Main Street, which had some of the roof come off in February, and there's been no movement, and people can't drive on the street. There's a lot of concern, and they've asked me, all right, we need to do something to get people to move. And I've also had some people contact me about the church on Appleton Street.
Walnut and Appleton.
And,
The fence?
and that as well, that you need to, we need to get these fences off of our streets in a timely manner.
Call the building commission.
And it does not appear that, at least on Hamilton and Main Street, that that person has done anything. That doesn't appear on Appleton Street, they've done anything as well. So hopefully we can create a fine and maybe move somebody along.
Great point.
Any further discussion? On the motion, refer to Committee on Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 22, introduced by Councilor Murphy, that the Joint Committee of the City Council and School Committee meet to review the high level of absenteeism for each school, the reason why some schools have far better attendance than others, and how particularly in the high school students can succeed with extremely high percentages of absences. For the Dean campus, absence 10 to 12 was 27.5%, 49.3%, and 37.7%. And for the Holyoke High campus, rates were 33.7%, 32.4%, 30.5%, and 27.3%. Motion to receive
How are they graduating?
And
refer to the committee, the Joint Committee.
Joint committee.
Committee, yes.
And again, real quick.
Councilor Murphy.
It's interesting to see the absences. First of all, H.B. Lawrence is the best in terms of not being absent. So, I mean, it's interesting as you look at these, and Metcalf is right up there with them in terms of not being absent. Donahue School in grade 4 through 6, not being absent. So we need to try to figure out, there's got to be some rationale as to what's going on. I don't know if it's because certain schools have more busing going to them, and if they miss the bus, then they have no way to get there. But we need to really have an examination of what is causing this. I know Betty Lichtenstein has talked about this. She worked for the school department on it. If we don't solve this problem, we're not solving the education issue in the city. And kids have to be in school to be able to succeed. And the last thing, and it relates to the high school, it's just amazing when I see some of the high school absent rates. The junior class at Dean was absent 49.3% of the time. That's half of the schools missing every day. So again, I want to make sure that we take this up and get the school committee, school people involved, get the receiver involved, get parents involved. Thank you.
Any further discussion? On the motion to refer to the Joint Committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Mr. President,
Councilor Bartley.
can I sign on to that order, please?
Absolutely.
Consider that done.
Thank you.
Item 23, introduced by Councilor Murphy, that the Parks and Recreation Director, the Community Development Director, the Holyoke Public Works Superintendent appear before DGR Committee to discuss the plans and needed funding to upgrade Springdale Park.
Make a
Motion
motion.
received for the Committee on DGR. Any
Se-
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 24, introduced by Councilor Murphy, that the city establish a school safety zone in accordance with Mass General Laws 90, Section 18B as follows. Establish two 20-mile-per-hour safety zones in the vicinity of Dean School and an athletic field on Main Street, beginning 100 feet northerly of the school property and extending 0.25 miles to the south in accordance with the Mass General Law.
That be ordinance?
Yes.
Motion received for the Committee on Ordinance. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I want to thank City Solicitor Burns and City Engineer Parent. They kind of got this together. We do have the equipment to make the school zone radar flashing signs, but they can't, as I understand it, they can't put them in until we adopt this ordinance. And so hopefully we can get to this early in September so that we're in the beginning of the school year when we end up getting the 20-mile-an-hour zones around the school. And I actually spoke with Brian Marcotte today, who was kind of excited that it would be beginning on the south end of his property. So he's hoping it'll slow people down next to his
Racing.
business, because he's had problems with that as well. So, but I do want to thank the city solicitor and the city engineer for putting this together.
Any further discussion? The motion refer to committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 25, introduced by Councilor Murphy. The city consider having trees located in city parks examined to assure that they are still healthy. This is filed after a large tree fell on the would-be youth soccer field area. Motion made second to adopt and refer to.
I'm almost thinking either public service or public safety. I can tell you,
Public safety.
public safety,
I would, if I may.
Public safety.
yeah.
Which field was it?
Well, and since then,
Some more.
I was walking in the last minute collecting signatures to get my name on the ballot against my intentions. But
We're glad you joined.
at Sheard Park, and as I'm walking and going down Maple Street, a huge tree fell right on the walkway on Jackson Street. The next 2 or 3 days later, I'm at Springdale down at the Midget Diamond. This tree fell on the other side of the dike, but all my kids that were out there in the outfield warming up, they all heard it coming, and it ended up just hitting other trees and kind of stayed over by the riverbank. That's the third one I've seen, and I've had other people tell me. And it was a nice sunny day on Sheard
All the
Park.
rain, yeah.
So I don't know, and I've talked to Terry Shepherd on it. She actually indicated to me we ought to make it not just parks, but we need to get an analysis of all of our trees, that there's quite a few that they thought were going on the defective part, and we needed to find some way of dealing with this. So that's why I put it primarily for the parks.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. So I think send it to public safety and then copy the conservation commissioner, and as well as the DCR, because the DCR has an urban forestry program in the city, and I think that they would be able to help diagnose a lot of these trees. I think we have trees and a nursery to use to replace a lot of them, but to identify which ones need to come down or which ones may be dangerous at this point in time, I think the urban forestry program would be able to help with that a lot.
If I can.
Councilor Murphy?
One of the things I wondered, because I'm certainly not a tree expert, but I saw the one at Springdale and I saw the one at Sheard, and I thought they look like the same kind of tree. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of disease going around on some of these trees.
It's probably locust trees. Locust,
Yeah.
they crack and they snap all the time.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Chair's listening. The chair's motion, I believe, that has been made and seconded is to take item 25, refer to Committee on Public Safety, send a copy to the Conservation Commissioner, DCR, I also think to our city forester too. On that motion, is there any other additions, discussion?
Can you just make sure it's the urban forestry, the DCR urban forestry program?
DCR Urban Forestry Program.
Yeah.
Okay, it should be invited in too, not just a copy.
Yep.
Got it. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 26, introduced by Councilor Murphy, handicap sign for 527 South Summer Street.
Supposed to be reserved to ordinance.
Ordinance.
This is for a Carmen Robles. Motion made and seconded to receive for the Committee on Ordinance.
Copy
All
to
those in-
disabilities.
Copy of disabilities. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Item 27, introduced by Councilor Murphy and Councilor LeBron Martinez.
We take 27, 28, and 29 as a package, Mr.
Second.
President,
Yeah.
and send them all to DPW.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules and take up 27, 28, and 29 to adopt and refer to the
Repair,
DPW.
repair,
If there's no
repair.
objection, Councilor 27 is that the brick sidewalk in the outside of the Center Street be repaired no later than this fall. The sidewalk currently presents a hazard for those walking and also prevents those with disabilities from using it safely. 28, that the sidewalk in front of 577 South Bridge Street be leveled to allow safer walking and access for persons with disabilities no later than this fall. This is a dangerous situation and one that will prevent a person with disabilities from using the sidewalk. And item 29, the sidewalk in front of 322 Pine Street be repaired and make it level and more easily accessed. Motion is to receive each of these orders, adopt and refer to the DPW for consideration. Is there any discussion?
Just real quick.
Councilor Murphy.
All of these relate to trees on sidewalks. And there is the next order that deals with trying to figure out, and I know the city engineer has talked about, we need to be aware of, I think, the soil underneath the sidewalk in terms of planting trees. Otherwise, we'll consistently have sidewalks being we'll have a tree that looks good and the sidewalk's gonna look like a mess. So we need to be a little wiser on how we do that. And just the last thing, 322 Pine Street, it's been 6 months and we've been talking about trying to get that sidewalk fixed. So I'm hoping that they will, and I've been told that should be coming up shortly, so hopefully it will. The other two are worse. And Councilor LeBron Martinez, we were at a meeting together and they asked me to walk, after you had to go to your other meeting that night, they asked me to walk that, and then I took the city engineer down. So it's a historical brick walkway.
Right.
That needs to be repaired. But again, if we repair it and we don't remove the trees, we got problems.
Talk about in committee.
Any further discussion? Motion then is to receive, adopt, and refer to the DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 30, introduced by Council Murphy, that the DG&R committee meet with the superintendent, the city engineer, and the city forester to discuss the problems caused by planting trees in city streets. Discussion should include types of trees which might be planted without having a negative impact on our neighborhood sidewalks. Motion made and second to receive and refer to
DG&R?
DG&R.
I'll keep you busy, David.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 31, introduced by Councilor Murphy. That the superintendent of DPW have one of his crews clear the high grass and weeds at the end of Lower Westfield Road entering Route 5, or work with the state to get it cleared. In addition, please have the bushes trimmed on the roadway going over the railroad tracks. Constituents have expressed concerns about not being able to see oncoming traffic. Motion,
Receive, adopt, and send to the superintendent of DPW.
receive, adopt, refer to superintendent of DPW. Councilor Murphy?
You know, just, it is a danger. I'm a relatively tall person, and a person that brought this to my attention was a relatively short person driving, and I could barely see over what is growing to get onto Route 5 today. So someone not 6 feet tall would have an issue trying to see anybody coming. They would just be going out. So this has got to get done pretty clear and pretty quick.
It's throughout the whole city,
I know, you gotta be careful.
at the end of every
Councilor
street.
Reagan, yep.
That's all.
Any further discussion? On the motion to receive, adopt, and refer, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 32, introduced by Councilor Murphy, that the mayor propose a bond for the demolition of all city-owned buildings which have been recommended for demolition. The bond would be close to probably $2 million, but it would allow the city to clear many unsafe and dilapidated buildings over the next year or two, rather than over the next 10 years, with bond payments only slightly higher than what we would pay on yearly for the now for demolition. Motion received
Sent to the finance committee.
and refer to Committee on Finance. Any
Add Sullivan
discussion?
to that?
Councilor Sullivan? Any other discussion?
Yes. But, again, we had meetings with public safety about some of the buildings, and I did receive a list from the fire department, from the building commissioner, and from the Blighted Buildings Committee, and they listed demolition costs and I think it was about 13 or 14 different buildings that were on the demolition list that they do not believe are going to be able to be ever rehabilitated. And going along with what Councilor LeBron Martinez has said, we need to get rid of the bad buildings, and then we need to figure out how to fix the lots.
Mr. President?
Councilor Reagan.
Thank you. I'm in favor of getting rid of these buildings, but I really wish we could prevail upon our mayor to use the Community Development Block Grant money for this purpose instead of going to bond and putting it on the taxpayers. I mean, we keep going in a circular loop on this. And I could see going to bonding for some of it, if at least the monies that are flowing into here were used for a portion of it. And a lot of those buildings are eligible under CDBG. And I know Counselor Sullivan's made this point many times, but one more time.
Counselor, any further discussion?
I'll save it for committee.
Any further discussion? On the motion then to refer to the committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 33, introduced by Councilor Murphy. Department of Public Works paint traffic dividing lines on both Protulia Street and St. Vincent Street. This is a constituent request because without lines, vehicles are crossing over to the other side of traffic as they make their turns.
I'm going to make a motion that be referred to the Public Safety Committee with a copy to the superintendent of DPW.
Motion made second to receive, refer to Committee on Public Safety with a copy to the superintendent. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 34, introduced by Councilor Murphy. Trees located on Chestnut Street side of South Chestnut Park be trimmed from the corner of Sergeant Street to the end of the park. This is a police request. Motion to receive, adopt, refer to the forest superintendent of the DPW and the Department of Forestry. Councilor Murphy.
And this is, I met with a few police officers and detectives, and their concern here is that the South Chestnut Street Park, which we've started to have kids start to get a chance to play in there, but their still concern is that they cannot get there's cameras there, but they can't get to use them because the trees are blocking the cameras, and they know there's some groups getting together that are not trying to be constructive there. But so hopefully we can get this done, and I would, just ask that it get done quickly. They really would like to be able to watch it, and I was so happy there was a cleanup sponsored by One Holyoke at South Chestnut Street Park. There must have been, I would say, about 150 to 200 families with kids going through the water sprays. It was the most number of people I've seen in that park in a long time. So we've got things happening, and we just need to make sure that we keep having some decent things happening there. And one of the things is to have the police being aware of the bad activities.
Any further discussion? On the motion then to refer to committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. With a copy to the superintendent. Item 35, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. That the fees in section 102-34 of the city ordinances be increased as necessary. We are paying the state more for this service than we are collecting. Motion is received, refer to committee on ordinance. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 36, introduced by Councilor Sullivan, that the council amend the wording for the recipient of the CPA grant to Voices Esperanza for 123 Pine Street. Due to a clerical error, it should have been the Valley Opportunity Council.
Second.
Motion made and second to adopt.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion, Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, just a quick explanation for everybody. I was the clerical error. I wrote in my shorthand VOC, and when I wrote it up, I thought Voces Esperanza. That was my shorthand for Valley Opportunity Council. So, sorry about that.
No problem. It was a great project, and it was a great presentation when we heard it, despite the mix-up. Any further discussion? On the motion to adopt and approve the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Irma, we don't need a roll call on that, right? I don't think, okay. All set. Item 37, introduced by Councilor Tallman, that the City Council accept Mass General Laws, Section 21C and a half, employees who are veterans participation in Veterans or Memorial Day services, time off granted, exceptions, Section 21C and a half, an employee of a city or town which accepts the provisions of this section, who is a veteran as defined in the clause 43rd of the Section 7 of Chapter 4, is a member of a Department of War veterans listed in Section 17 of Chapter 8, and who desires to participate in the Veterans Day or Memorial Day exercises, parade, or service, may be allowed to be granted a reasonable and sufficient period of off time from his or her duties to attend and participate in such services or exercises. This section shall not apply to employees whose duties and services are critical and essential to the public safety as determined by ordinance or by law, and the city or town may determine whether such time shall be with or without pay.
Yes.
Wow.
Pretty good writing, huh? I didn't write that all myself, but being a veteran, I've stepped up and put this forward for Jesus Pereira. He wanted me to put it in there, so I think maybe we could send this to ordinance committee.
Motion made and seconded to receive for a committee on ordinance. Any other discussion?
I just want to state that it does, that we read the last line, that if anybody's an employee, that they give them time off, but they don't have to pay them for that time off if they wish to participate in a Memorial Veterans Day parade. So that's, and if their duties are needed, well, they're needed, they can't do that, so. But I did that in behalf of Jesus Pereira, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
On the motion, any further discussion? Refer to committee on ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 38, introduced by Councilor Bacon, Proclamation be given to David M. Bartley for being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Holyoke Democratic City Committee.
Could I be added on to that?
I think everybody, yeah, I'd be added too.
Sounds like everybody would like to be added on to this. If there's no objection, so done. Motion to receive, adopt, and have Mr. Bartley come in at our next meeting, would that be good?
Will that work?
Hopefully.
Or,
Yeah,
you know,
we'll-
accordingly?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll have
Okay,
to see.
we will have that worked out with the president, if you could. And just note,
Very nice, though.
well, I better not say
Appreciate
this.
it.
Should I say this, Linda?
Go ahead.
No, I think this is wonderful.
Oh, yes, it is.
That a member of the Republican committee is saying something for the Democratic committee.
Well,
Absolutely love it.
Well, you know, I noticed it in the paper,
Lovely
and
gesture.
we've honored a number of people for a number of things. And I just think his story and his service
Yeah.
comes right up there with the other ones that we've done. And David would never do it himself, or his dad, so.
Shouldn't, right? Might be a conflict, but we'll see.
We were at the actual party, we were talking about how Dave Senior, Morris Donahue, and Ann McHugh, in the educational force that they were in the state during their heyday. It was incredible what they did. You know, and they fought, and we see the fruition in Holyoke in many ways over the years, but Holyoke Community Campus isn't what it is without Dave Bartley Senior, and I think it's wonderful. But
I
a
would
good
defer to
proclamation.
the most senior member of the council for the presentation, though.
Any further discussion?
It's very nice.
On this motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 39, introduced by Councilor Bacon. That an update on the heroin-related overdoses be provided by our police department and to the city council. The last report included 2014, 42 OD calls, 11 fatalities, and 2015, 83 OD calls, 12 fatalities.
Refer to public safety with a copy to the police department.
Motion made second to receive for the Committee on Public Safety with a copy to the police department. Councilor Bacon, any discussion?
It speaks for itself, but I want to see what the trends are. I've had a long-standing concern about the needle exchange, which is really a needle giveaway. And I have an increasing concern with the folks coming in panhandling. Feedback to us has indicated a great majority of them are drug-addicted people. So I just want to see what the trend has been in the city. Thank you.
Any further discussion? On a motion to refer to committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Copy to the police department. Item 40, introduced
Mr.
by...
President, on item 40, you can disregard the bottom part. It appears to be some verbiage from email.
Item 40, upper part, is that
The second part is like verbiage from an email I sent to a department. I don't know how. Probably got stuck on with my order somehow when I sent it over to the clerk.
Introduced by Councilor Bacon, that the owner of a new house at 333 Rock Valley Road be required to comply with our ordinance and apply for a special permit for a front driveway. New home was built on Homestead Ave in the past, and the owner was required to obtain a special permit prior to construction of the front driveway. There has been no special permit application filed, and the front driveway has already been constructed.
I'm not sure procedurally how we can accomplish this after the
the building
fact.
commissioner.
But just adopt and refer and send to the building commissioner?
Yeah.
I think sounds
Okay,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Motion made second to adopt and refer to the building commissioner, and hopefully with a way to resolve it. That makes sense to both the neighborhood and to,
Right. I think the main problem is not the fact that it exists, but the fact that they're just using it basically as a parking for a van rather than in the residential spirit.
any further discussion? Councilor Lisi, I can see it in your eyes.
I'm just thinking, I can't remember if the city council grants the special permit or some other body grants a special permit.
City council.
So I think we should also be sending it to committee, because I think at some point we would need to have the special hearing and go through that process.
Well,
So,
we need an application, though.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
Has to go
can't
to the
fill out the
clerk.
application for
no,
the...
yeah, it's true, you're right.
Any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Item 41, introduced by Councilor Bacon. Signage cones and painting of the crosswalk lines be completed on County Road as the crosswalk is almost invisible to drivers.
Receive, adopt, and refer to DPW with a copy to public safety, please.
Motion made second to receive, adopt, refer to the DPW with a copy to public safety. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Item 42, introduced by Councilor Bartley. That the City of Holyoke amend the zoning ordinance, Section 4-3A, Section 8, to require a special permit prior to granting permission for its use in residential districts in the City of Holyoke and no longer allow the use of right-of-way as of a right. The special permit is to be issued by one of the following boards and only after a public hearing, the City Council or Planning Board or the Board of Appeals.
Ordinance, please.
Motion made second to
Second.
receive for the Committee on Ordinances. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Item 43, introduced by Councilor Bartley. Rule 1 of the City Council be suspended for the purpose of the City Council attending the Salute to Holyoke at the Big E on Tuesday, September 17th.
Well, my motion is to receive and adopt.
I'll second that.
Motion made second to receive and adopt. We're doing a slight suspension of rules, but I think it's a worthy cause.
Yeah, so we've generally not held a second meeting, but I mean, I'm certainly not averse to it, but we've generally not. So I don't know what to say. If somebody wants to make a
We
friendly
can make a
amendment.
decision now, or Todd could actually
Let's have Todd back.
reschedule the regular meeting as a special meeting if he wished to too. So it's up to the body.
Let's just adopt this tonight, and anything else,
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll let Todd figure out.
so
And what time would the parade be kicking
5
off?
o'clock always.
Okay.
Sharp.
We'll get Ryan to get some information out at the right time.
Oh, yeah, we'll work with them on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the motion to adopt and suspend our September 17th meeting for the purpose of being able to go to the Big E, which is Holyoke Day?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 44, introduced by
Mr.
Council.
President, can we suspend and do abbreviated reading for 44, 45, 46, 47, 48? They're all surplus properties, and they shall all go to DGR.
With no objections, suspending the rules for 44 through 48. Abbreviated readings. All those in favor? Any opposed? 44. These are all Mass General Laws 30B. And with the procurement ordinances, I'll just read the addresses. The first one is surplus property available, 1094 Hampden Street. Item 45 is 28 Cabot Street, surplus property available. Item 46 is 32 Cabot Street, surplus property and available. Item 47 is
A lot on East Hampton Road.
lot on East Hampton Road, map 212, block 00, parcel 001, and this would also be surplus.
53 acres.
And item 48 is also on East Hampton Road, known as, in the deeds book, as 1751, page 320, and we're making this surplus and available for disposition. The motion is to receive each of these and refer them to the Committee on DGR. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 49 is introduced by Councilor Bresnahan. No person shall solicit donations or conduct fundraising activities in the travel portion of a public way in a manner in which the reasonable judgment of a police officer endangers the safety of persons engaging in such conduct or a person using public way.
Receive and send to public safety?
Motion made second to receive
Second.
and send to Public Safety Committee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 50, introduced by Councilor Leahy. The city engineer research of a four-way stop sign is needed at the intersection of Race Street and Dwight Street. There has been a lot of accidents in this area over the last couple of years. Please have the results back to the Public Safety Committee within 30 business days.
Yeah, filed on behalf of constituents, so receive, adopt, and send to the city engineer.
Motion made second, receive, adopt, refer to the city engineer with a copy to Public Safety.
Sure.
Question.
Councilor Bacon.
Would you want to send a copy to ordinance in case it is warranted?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay, can we reverse the adopt then?
Yep.
And it's referred to the Committee on Ordinance with a copy to the engineer.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Item 51, introduced by Council Leahy. The Department of Public Works secured the necessary funding for the mayor to fix and pave and demolition and construct a new parking lot behind the City Hall. The parking lot is dangerous. Please send it to the mayor, please send it to the mayor's office, DPW, and Public Safety Committee.
Received, adopt, send to the mayor's office and the Public Safety Committee.
Motion is to receive, adopt, refer to each of those offices. Under discussion, Council Leahy.
Just very quickly, we all know how bad it is. I witnessed a person fall not too long ago. It's an awful shape, and that's, somebody coming to City Hall, that's the first thing they see before they go into this beautiful building. You see how decrepit our parking lot is. It's not right. Thank you.
I'd like to sign on to that. I was really at the Rotary event last Wednesday, and I parked over here, and I was just kind of appalled by the effect that the winter has had on our parking deck, and it's in really bad condition.
How about if we go unanimous on this?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
That's good.
Any further discussion? Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, half of that deck is on top of the old police station, which is a biohazard nightmare.
Right.
So this is a little
Good
more
cost.
than
More than,
a resurfacing project.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I agree, and I think every time we come down here for a meeting, we see that, and I did spoke to one of our elected officials that works in this building that actually fell outside and could have hurt herself pretty badly and did not, but, it's something that, has to be done, take care of somewhere, at least to try to patch things up or smooth things out a little bit out there, because
Something.
whenever you walk out your car, you see it,
Especially at nighttime.
Now, there's only 2 elected officials that work in the building, so we're going to have to tell the story of our city treasurer who was here on the weekends, and luckily she got up, or maybe
Okay,
someone might not have found her right away.
You knew that then, okay. That's what it was.
Well, there's only,
Only 2, right?
we had to
There's only 2.
separate it. Any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 52, introduced by Councilor Leahy. The Honorable City Council present Dave Mattson an official proclamation congratulating him for 50 years in broadcasting. In his 27th year with the Western Mass News, Dave has brought the news of the day into homes of Holyoke in a fair and very responsible manner.
Yeah, received, adopt,
Adopt,
and
yeah.
send to Mrs. Allen.
Motion made second to receive, adopt, have a proclamation prepared, and see if we can get Mr. Mattson in at a future meeting.
Yeah, it was under discussion if I could. Speaking
right.
to him, I mean, he's been a mainstay in the Leahy household. A lot of the information that I get regarding the city council and whatnot has been through him. So I think he's been an intricate part in the city, and he will be very happy to accept a proclamation since he has a lot of free time in his hands.
Nice. Any further discussion? On the motion then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 53, introduced by Councilor Lisi, that the City Council create an ad hoc committee to focus on the city's bond rating. The committee will work closely with the mayor, bond council, city departments, auditor, treasurer, tax collector, assessor, and the city's financial team to aggressively improve the city's bond rating. This may include requesting site visits from the rating agencies to see the growth and the experience and adoption of a package of fiscal policies, creations of a financial planning tools, and more.
Receive and adopt. I think send a copy to the mayor. I spoke with Todd and the mayor about this. I think that, in listening to, I've been attending a lot of finance committee meetings, and in listening to our bond counsel and financial advisor, it seems that the city is in a position where I think we can aggressively seek a higher bond rating, and that would do a lot for the city. For all the bonds that it takes on, would allow us to enjoy a better interest rate. And we're the policy-making body of the city, so I think it's really up to us as a city council to figure out which, fiscal policies we would like to adopt. I saw in one of the tapes, Cinder McNeary, our bond counsel, was talking about how really many municipalities across the Commonwealth are starting to, quote-unquote, plagiarize fiscal policies from one another, and I think we just need some guidance to figure out which ones would work here. I don't think that there's any harm in really thinking proactively and figuring out a way to make a case for ourselves. I think the fact that we are, we still have a healthy stabilization fund. We lost our largest source of tax revenue with the closing of the Mount Tom power plant, and we haven't gone under as a city. I think we've been experiencing growth, but we don't get to enjoy the benefits of that growth because we're digging ourselves out of a well. So I think that there's an opportunity here to kind of put some pieces together and again, make a case for ourselves with the rating agencies that we deserve better than a AA bond rating. And I think in shoot for the moon, and if we land among the stars with, some really great fiscal policies, then no harm done. And I'm happy to be a part of this work.
Any further discussion? Chair heard a motion there. I believe the motion is to receive, adopt, refer to the mayor, a copy to the city council president,
Yep.
copies to each of these department heads, because not all of them work under some are elected officials. The auditor appointed by the city council, a treasurer elected, tax collector appointed by the city council, and assessor.
Yes.
And make sure that that the mayor and the president hopefully get together and follow up on the idea of this ad hoc committee. Any further
Thank
discussion? On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 54, introduced by Councilor Lisi. The City Council invite the mayor, LaChapelle of East Hampton, to discuss East Hampton's experience with depth exclusion for their school project, concrete projections, numbers, and date to articulate the impact of the school construction on taxpayers and the community at large.
Thank you. Receive and send to finance.
Motion made, second, receive for the Committee on Finance. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So it's come to my knowledge that East Hampton has basically gone through the same process that we're attempting to go through with debt exclusion. We are debt excluding for the potential of 2 new middle schools at $132 million. They debt excluded for $109 million for a single K-8 elementary school. I heard a little bit about the numbers that they were projecting. They were projecting a tax increase on their average home of nearly $700. We're projecting a tax increase on the average home in Holyoke of $240. And then I think the numbers that came in were much lower. So what they actually added on to the taxpayer's bill was about a third of that projected number. So it'd be nice to know like where other revenue streams came from, perhaps state or federal grants that could help, bring us up to the 80%. I think it's become clear we're not getting 80% from MSBA, but I don't think that achieving 80% reimbursement through various funding streams is impossible. And so I think that it would be great to hear how that pie was constructed in East Hampton. And so I spoke to Mayor LaChapelle in advance to see if she was willing to come in. She said she'd be more than happy to talk with us about the East Hampton experience, and I thought it would be worthwhile.
Mr. President, can we take up item number 63 as well then?
Motion made and second to include item number 63 with discussion.
Second.
This is that introduced by Councilor McGee, essentially the same thing that the Finance Committee invite Mayor LaChapelle to discuss options and plans East Hampton has regarding their project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Under discussion, further discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Just briefly, I would just be a little bit careful in their experience because I don't think East Hampton has a split tax rate. And so the tax implications, I think, would be quite different, although if there were some alternate revenue sources, that might be informative. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just want to say,
Councilor
again,
Lisi.
thank you. I ran this by Todd in advance, and he wanted to ensure that it went to Finance Committee, so I see he created a duplicate to send it to Finance Committee, which is what we did with 54 anyhow.
And now that the Chair of Finance Committee understands what is the intentions of the two makers of the orders, we'll be glad to ask Michelle to come in. I'll privately tell her she's nuts if she does. Any further discussion? On that motion, all those in favor? Good order. Any opposed? So moved. The Chair is going to, what did I say?
Michelle.
Wow.
LaChapelle, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I get Lisa.
Can we,
All right. Chair's going to take a little bit of liberty, or Councilor Tomlin's going to do this? Suspend the rules to take up items 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60 with abbreviated readings and refer to the Committee on Finance.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? These are orders that are coming in for the first time. The first 55 is a grant, MHC Survey and Planning 56 is also a grant, Veterans Heritage Grant, additional funding. 57 is Massachusetts Emergency Agency Grant. 59 is a transfer. It's $16,540 from Energy, Oil, and Electric to Computer Coordinator, Children's Librarian, Assistant Librarian, Library Director, Assistant, and Library Assistants. And 60 is a charter school spending tuition transfer appropriation to personal services and school choice sending tuition. The motion is to receive each of these, refer them to Committee of Finance for discussion. Any discussion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we all recognize item 58 is our every meeting order for injured on duty. In this case, it's firefighters, lieutenants, and firefighters, transfer of salary from total $6,924.40 to injured on duty, same amount, same individuals getting paid for the purpose of while they were injured on duty for the purpose of their salary, but accounting of the fact that they weren't working at the time.
Make a motion to pass the first reading on this one?
Motion made, second to receive, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
How
So
many
moved.
people are out?
How many? Yeah, I
I'm
don't think
sorry,
I
I was trying to find it. Is it over here? While I'm finding it, the motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Second.
Could be 1 and 2, I don't know.
Okay. Again, this is firefighters injured on duty. And two injured on duty.
2 total.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you vote in favor of this transfer. If you vote no, you're voting to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've adopted the transfer. Item 61 is introduced by Councilor McGee. The Public Safety Committee invite the Police Department and DPW to discuss the parking garage issues and come up with options to clean and protect the area.
Receive and send to
Public safety.
Motion made second, receive, refer,
Public Safety.
Public Safety.
Copy to the
W.
Put a
DPW.
copy to
DPW
DPW.
the
and
police department? Yeah. If, Maker's not here, but if you could, I could also sign on to that?
So done. Any further discussion? Signatures? All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. Item 62, introduced by Councilor McGee. The City Council give a proclamation to Jason
Garand.
Durand on his retirement and dedicated service to the City of Holyoke. He was the business manager for Local 336 of the New England Regional Council of Carpenters. Motion to receive, adopt.
Yeah. Can I be signed on to that as well, please?
Councilor Leahy?
Also,
Me too, I could,
Lisi.
Everybody?
I could too,
Sounds good.
please.
Motion then to receive, adopt, and ask our president to get a proclamation put together and to possibly bring Jason in at one of our future meetings. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Ooh.
We already did item 63. There are no late filed orders or communications.
All right.
Irma, I'm sorry. I told you 9:30. It's 9:35.
Hey, very good.
Mr.
Chair,
President, Mr.
Councilor
President,
Tomlin.
before we have that motion, I just want to state that I want to thank you for putting on a great meeting, running the meeting effectively, and not needing me as a backup.
I'd also like to thank Irma, too, for stepping
It
in.
will never happen again.
Motion
Ah,
adjourned.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? We stand adjourned.